Welcome to day 111 of the New Way. Remember that yesterday we looked at Jairus' daughter being raised from the dead. But in the middle of that story, a woman was healed. We skipped her story, but today I want to go back and look at it. I'll reread Matthew 9:20 through 22. Just then a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be healed." Jesus turned and saw her. "Take heart, daughter," he said, "your faith has healed you." And the woman was healed at that moment. We are given very little information about this incident in Matthew. We know that the woman had been bleeding for 12 years and that she touched Jesus' cloak in an attempt to be healed. But what does Jesus say healed her? Jesus says her faith healed her. Let's read Mark 5:24 through 34. So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet, instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." We learn from Mark's account that she had been to many doctors and that she had spent all her money on cures that hadn't helped. Notice that Jesus didn't just let her slip away quietly, but gently pursued her. Notice the last phrase of Mark 5:33. I'll read it for you again. Mark 5:33, "Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth." Let's read Luke's version in Luke 8:43 through 48. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." I want you to take a few moments to think about this woman. She was desperate for Jesus to heal her. According to Jewish law, she was considered unclean because of this bleeding. She was not allowed contact with other people. For 12 years, she had been a prisoner in her own home and had spent all her money on doctors, yet nothing worked. How do you think she might have heard about Jesus? No one knows. But I want you to consider that even today, there are many who are shut in or homebound and need to hear about Jesus' new way. Do you think it took courage to come outside into the crowds and to touch Jesus? I do. She could have been stoned for breaking the Jewish law. I'm sure she didn't want anyone to see or notice her, but Jesus did. He cared about her and called for her to come to him. Why do you think he did that? Do you think Jesus knew who she was and what she had suffered? I do. Then wouldn't it seem kinder to ignore her and let her stay hidden? Why did Jesus pursue her? When she told him her story, the whole truth, in front of all the people, he could have ordered the people to stone her for breaking the law concerning uncleanness. But I believe Jesus stopped and confronted her because he wanted to heal her emotionally and socially as well as physically. He wanted to set her totally free, not just physically. Jesus cares about all aspects of your life, your emotions and feelings, your relationships and friendships and interactions socially, and he cares about how you are treated by others. In today's world, we would say he was holistic, caring for the whole person. Are there some areas of your life you've never talked to Jesus about? He loves you and cares about every aspect of your life. In his service, Dale.